Perhaps it is love that will heal this world. Because wherever we came in today, we were awakened to something within us. It was Beethoven who said that music is the mediator between the spiritual world and our sensual life. It brings it all together. Another musician, in fact, it was the first quote I read about where love is deep. He said, where love is deep, much can be accomplished. And that was Shinseki Suzuki. And I'm sure we've all heard of the Suzuki method of musical education. But I read about it. I'd heard a lot about it, and unfortunately I didn't have my girls involved in that education. I see it on buildings and understand it, but listen to what he said. Musical ability is not an inborn talent, but an ability which can be developed. He said, a child who is properly trained can develop musical ability because the potential of every child is unlimited. The principles of that Suzuki method were this, and I want you to apply it to what we teach and what we know, because we are a teaching, healing ministry also, as this is too. And he said, this education, this developing this musical talent, or whatever talent is within us, is based on early beginning, listening, loving encouragement, parental support, constant repetition, and learning with your peers. What an understanding for all of us about the power of love. In our teaching, we believe that God, whatever you call it, spirit, is all there is. There's only one. And a synonym for that power is love, because God is love. So there's all this love available to us because it's inherent. We're hardwired for it. It's not something we have to go out and find, as Griselda said in her beautiful reading. It's already inherent in us. But we have to learn to love. How many of you were taught when you were just this big that love is all there is and that's what we're here to do? Or was it to do the right thing and be a good girl or boy? Or what was it? This love in here needs to be developed and grown through these principles. When you start early, it's easier. If you come from a family that doesn't focus on the power of love, there's a lot more work to be done later. And listening to each other. You know, listening is an activity of love. It's love in action, just listening and caring and understanding and loving encouragement. We're here to build each other up and understand we all need this. You know, the world feels it's in such disarray right now, so difficult, because so many of us are talking about how it feels we have to be reintegrated back into the world. Just as you were saying, Court, we feel like we have to learn how to get back in sync. Do you feel that way? We've kind of forgotten from a year of being isolated from what we've known. And we have to learn how to get back together again. And so this beautiful message from this teacher just reminded me of the journey we're on. And we're in this together. And how much more important it is for us to be doing this awakening, this remembering, whatever we're doing, but to do it together, because we're so much more powerful. So here we're talking about this deep love, and that God is love and all there is, and it has to be learned. But sometimes we get the wrong understanding of what love is. Love is a big spectrum. It's not just the good, goosebumpy feelings that we get. Ooh, it's also the deep grief we feel when we've loved so deeply. And I really feel this week has been a spectrum of different types of loving moments for me this week. And I know, talking to some beautiful people I know, that both have done deep, deep work, their own healing. Because as we've talked about, this healing has to be done from within. We're not going to get it out there. We have to find that within. Have done the deep work within, that they can come together and want to share that love for the rest of their lives together, and how beautiful that is. And on the other end of the spectrum, I got a call yesterday from one of our beloved congregants, and one of our ministers, and he was in deep pain and grief for the loss of his son. Instantaneous. Just the grief that was felt, the tears that were shared were tears of great, great, deep, deep love. So love is the whole spectrum of things. And so when we say where deep love is, what does that mean? It means we have to be open to the fullness of life. We are love, which means we're here to experience those things in life and to learn how to handle them and be strong, because we know that the power of love is healing. And so if we're going to be here on this journey of reopening, re-getting committed to life and each other, there are certain things we need to know and learn. First of all and foremost, this is something we need to say every single day and know until we understand it. God is life, not some life, but all life. And God is love. And all that power wants for us is goodness, no matter what. That's all. And we have to keep saying that and knowing it and understanding it. Ernest Holmes said, we can affirm, God is love, God is love, God is love, until we're blue in the face. But until we can really have our arms, not physically, but emotionally and energetically, until we can have our arms around each other, it doesn't mean a thing. So if we have a call right now, it's to think, oh, who are the people I love? And yes, energetically put your arms around them. If they're here or somewhere else, put your arms around. Who is it I love? Who am I in contact with? And then, as Jesus said, we have to love our enemies. You see, he started out and he didn't say, well, hate yourself and then love everybody else. He said, love God first and foremost, of course, but then love others as you love yourself. So that's that internal job. That's why we have to do this learning, to learn how to love ourselves. Because let me tell you something, and I know for all of you, it's not just for some of us. For every person we see, there's a little child inside. Everybody. That is a little bit frightened, or maybe a lot of frightened about life. Am I good enough? Am I going to do okay? What about the mistakes I've made? Has some fear about life and proceeding ahead, and how, because we're growing and expanding forever, so we don't know what's next. So there's a little trepidation there. And also, all of us are stumbling over some of our actions, some of the words we've said, some of our mistakes. And we have to learn how to love ourselves for all of it, the whole bit. We have to learn how to be bigger than that, because all of that that's going on in that little child, the main thing, I need to be loved. That's not just for some people. That's a basic fundamental need for every single person. And if you and I could understand that and learn, we think it's so easy to be critical and judgmental, but you know what? Criticism and judgment are simply hiding the pain in our own heart. If we're pointing the finger out there saying how all that is bad and wrong and this is awful, yes, we criticize some, because we learn by comparison, and that's a little bit is okay. But if we're pointing the finger, blaming others, putting the finger out there, number one, it's a huge burden to carry around, to think about everything we hate and don't like and we don't want in our lives and going wrong and bad and all of that. But also it's covering up something in here, because the problem with life, all of this love and beauty and joy want to flow through us, this greater understanding, putting things in perspective, the bigger picture, it wants to flow through us. But we obstruct that channel that we have the possibility to be, that we're meant to be, that we're made for, because we're afraid of getting hurt. There's not a person here that hasn't been hurt before, am I right? We've all been hurt. We've all felt pain, because that's the spectrum. But I talked about the Suzuki method of teaching music, which I thought was so beautiful. Another one of the Japanese, a piece of the Japanese culture is the wabi-sabi love, which it comes from Buddhism and not about wanting everything to be perfect and just right and brand new, but it's about the deep, deep understanding that life is impermanent and imperfect. And in a Japanese museum, the vases that are honored the most are the ones that have a crack and a chip, because they've seen life and they've experienced it. So no matter where we are in this journey, and our journey is all about deep love, it's all about opening to something more. And we need to stop whining that somebody else did it to us. We need to really know that, yes, some of us didn't have the most loving childhood, so we need a little more encouragement from our community. We need a little more learning and understanding. You know, the mystics, St. John of the Cross, I learned just last night, I'm so excited, that St. John of the Cross was the patron saint of mystics. And you know how I love mystics, and my boyfriends and girlfriends that are mystics, I love them. But he said, I love this, where you find no love, put love, and then you'll find love. Simple. But you and I, are directly responsible for creating and maintaining the love in our life. Nobody else is responsible for it. So that deep love, yes, when you're in grief, find people to listen. Because remember, it's not a two-way street. Listening, sharing and listening is that active love in process. Share it. And when you're joyful and happy, share that, be that, let it just exude from you, because we're all in this together, all in this amazing journey of life together. Sri Ramakrishna, a 19th century Hindu mystic, said, "Dive deep, O mind. Dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of God's love." Every day, you and I need to be practicing the presence of love. Practice it. It's work. You got to do it. Because I guarantee you, we've had all this programming of hurts and pains that are inside us. So when you're going down to this deep love that's inside all of us, you're going to snap right into all those old pains, the hurts, the insecurities, the angers, the upsets. And we've got to learn to deal with them. Ernest Holmes asks, he begs, please do not go to bed at night holding any animosity in your heart. Make sure every day you clean up that animosity, make peace with it, and the only real peace there is, that healing power. If you and I would believe deeply in the healing power of love, miracles would happen. So just say this. Even though if you think you're the best lover in the whole world, okay, I want you to say this. I'm willing to learn to love. I'm willing to be more flexible, more understanding, more open. Therefore, I am an open channel for God's love. If you say something that simple at night, not even having to go over every single little hiccup that happened, but you just open yourself to be that vessel of love, miracles will happen. Because that type of understanding, when we can look at the world and look at the people and things in the world and understand that flowers and plants and animals and children and people and adults all respond to love. Now, some more reluctantly, because the fear in them is greater, their hurt is greater, and there needs to be a greater understanding, but it's there. It's there. We all respond in some way to that love, because love, Ernest Holmes calls it the lodestone, the magnetic attractive power of life. And that's what's there. It's there for us. And if we do that, Ernest Holmes says we will find an eternal song of love that expands, enhances, and fulfills. And when that happens, you can say, I love my life no matter what's going on for you. You have that greater understanding that everyone, no matter where they are, if they're flat down in the gutter, nothing to live for, they're still seeking to find their way. The same as the person who's kneeling at the altar in prayer with God. It's all there. So my thing for us is I want to leave, just turn up that little switch a little higher, the little rheostat that you have to open yourself, and just say, I love my life. Just the way it is, and just the way it is not. Phew, I got that right this time. Last week I messed that one up. But I want you to know that. I know it for you. I love you, and I love your life, and I love our community, and I love this world, and my hope is that all of us can turn that up, because that is that power of love in us, because I believe that is the only thing that's going to lift up, rise up, raise this world to the way it's supposed to be. Just imagine our arms around each other and know the power of love, and that is you. And so it is.